Welcome to the 2025 Psychosocial Safety Summit coming to you in March at the Marook Culture Centre. I want to introduce you to the speakers so that you can get to know these incredible people before you arrive. And if you haven't grabbed your tickets yet, don't wait, jump on the link below. Now, today I want to introduce you to Leroy Maher, who's the Managing Director at Dhiira. Leroy, thank you so much for being involved in the summit this year. I think it's coming together really nicely, and you are the perfect final addition to the speakers.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You're welcome. And look, there might be people who haven't met you before. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and experience?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Leroy Maher, Warramine Ngurrindjeri man. I run a company called Dhiira now. Dhiira does a couple of things. We work across consulting, strategy, advisory, training, and a couple of other streams, but it's all centered in Aboriginal affairs. So essentially the core of what we're doing now, in 2025 especially, is disrupting Aboriginal affairs for purpose. So we're trying to activate companies, organizations, and intentions towards creating better outcomes, be that through procurement, employment, workplace policy, anything that has to do with companies' obligations to Aboriginal people and communities. We're there to try and activate and support and uplift.
Love it. And why did you start the business?
Oh, interesting one. So the business was kind of started out of necessity in a way. There was kind of this, having background in working corporates. I've only worked for two companies before starting Dira. I worked for Commonwealth Bank as an Aboriginal school-based trainee when I was in high school, and then had another career with them for probably like another 5, 6 years. I think I was there for 7 years total, and then went to work for the company that gave me the traineeship, the Aboriginal Employment Strategy. So I've only worked in corporate, and then the Aboriginal employment not-for-profit sector, and working in those. Again, with this kind of ADHD brain, neurodivergent brain, I was looking at the systematics, and there was a misalignment in how the organization's heartbeat operated throughout the org. So that was what the original mission of Dira was to try and figure out what the parallels, what the synergies were, but then what were those beautiful points of tension between ways of doing, being, and thinking as it applied to business constructs that were there to serve the people that it intended to serve.
I love that. And look, you
Yeah.
might have already answered this, but how does your work help organizations thrive?
Well, I mean, look, the number one thing that we do, and I guess it's part of what my personal mission is, and it's trying to cut through all of the BS to help people feel safe and engaging in something that they want to engage in.
Yeah.
So we know now that organizations, whether you're a company or a local business, everyone has this idea of this kind of corporate social responsibility around Aboriginal affairs, whether they're operating reconciliation action plans, whether you're operating your own bespoke version of these things. There's either a sense of pressure to be able to engage, or there's a sense of intent, and there's like a meaning and a purpose behind wanting to engage in this conversation. Now, to do that properly, we've got to make sure that first you're safe enough to do it. So we cut through the idea of fragility, and we cut through the idea of kind of mimicking the same things that we've been trying to produce and overproduce through sectors for over a decade now. So my job ultimately is to use kind of leadership activation towards creating and dreaming of impact focused on who the organizations are. And that goes through that kind of tedious process of, can I understand what the mission is? Do I understand what my role is? Because each organization only contributes to a narrative. They don't own or control it. And that's the beauty of Aboriginal co-design.
Yeah, I love how you explain things and how much it makes sense because often people just think, well, the tick box is we have to make sure that we do risk assessments for psych safety and we have to make sure we've got a RAP and we've got to make sure we've got, all of the other things. But
Right.
the way you explain it and the benefits and the values and the reasons, that's the depth, that's the over and above, that's the things that's
Yeah.
actually going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I am so excited that you're coming to the summit. It is very aligned, but can you share just a little bit of a sneak peek on what you're going to be talking about there?
Yeah, so when we're thinking about the idea of kind of psychosocial safety and the application of this in my world, now what we're going to talk about is kind of the deliberate systems which foster a sense of cultural safety in a workplace. I don't like to use the language of cultural safety because nothing that you ever do will give you as an organization the right to say that we're a culturally safe employer. You can't create assurances of that for anyone. So what we do is that we teach you about the systems that build cultural responsiveness. So how do you as an employer, how do me as a leader, me as a team member or a peer, what do I need to do, observe, and apply to be able to respond to the varying needs of cultural nuances within my workplace? And that's kind of what the ultimate determinant is around an organization's ability to continue to offer and listen and respond to things in the right way, understanding that just because I build something doesn't create assurances that people are going to use it. They have to feel safe enough to use it. We've got to look at the kind of empirical systems of capitalism that have been designed to suppress people's ability to be individuals. You know, we
Mm,
always say, bring your whole self to work. Can we actually do that? So what we teach is how do you be responsive and how do you understand some of those kind of psychological elements that relate to cultural nuances and just human-based nuances to provide me with safety and assurances that if I am going to have a relationship with you as an employer, as a leader, as a peer, that we're going to enter that with trust and we're going to enter that in a space that's going to mean that if I say something, it's going to be listened to. So it
mm,
is quite tricky. It's simple in theory. But when you start to look at some of the things that we build and why, and then how they actually used and applied,
mm.
it gets a little bit dicey.
Yeah, and like we can say it's simple, but people aren't rolling it out. People don't really understand because of those symptoms. And it's really that how to, right? Like that's what the summit's all about is the how do we do the difficult stuff, the things that we don't talk about, the things that we don't know about. So getting that toolkit, I think, will be so beneficial for all the workplaces, the HR, work health and safety, and the leaders that are coming to the summit. So very excited about you speaking at the summit. And I know that some people will be listening to this and saying, I can't wait until then. What's the best way for them to connect with you and learn more and find out more?
Yes, you can jump on the website, dira.com.au. You'll see it linked somewhere, I'm assuming, around where we're playing this video. Or alternatively, jump on LinkedIn. You can send me a message on LinkedIn as well. But the main thing that we want to start a conversation about is grappling with some of the human behaviors of leadership
Mm,
and activating your leadership and your delegation as someone that's in a role right now because we have to have change agency start somewhere. And some of these things are uncomfortable. So if you are uncomfortable about these conversations, just know that we will start off by tackling a couple of things that we do when we facilitate, which will help you kind of go, okay, I can feel comfortable in talking about this because the one thing we don't want is saviorism or fragility. That seesaw
mm,
is dangerous. So we'll manage that seesaw at the start of the workshop.
yeah. And I like to say too, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. And if we're not
Amen.
growing, we're not learning. And yeah, so it's all about being uncomfortable so that we can improve. Let's get
That's
out of the
right.
comfort zone and make real change.
Yeah. As long as we know why are
Yes,
we doing it?
exactly. Well, thank you so much, Leroy. I cannot wait to meet you in person and really appreciate you being a part of the summit.
Thanks again. Looking forward to it.